What's going on, everybody? We're out here today, gonna prep us a little spot, trying to get another big deer on the ground before season goes out. We got just shy of a month left here in Georgia. We've got one spot in Clark County we may do a little more hunting on this year, but it'll have the extended archery, so it'll go a little bit longer. But anyway, just wanted to bring you guys along today, give you a few tips. I've prepped a few things. We've got us a pulley here with some 550 paracord, I believe it is. Went ahead and prepped me a bucket, sprayed it all where it doesn't stand out, and I always like to take some tape and tape the sides, all these metal parts, and I use like bat tape or tennis racket tape and fold it over these little ears right here that sling the corn, and cuts down on a lot of that noise. So it's not so much the deer I'm worried about, but if you put one out and the deer haven't been used to it, it will take them a little while to get used to that noise. If they're right up under it, you know, they'll probably scurry off a little ways, but they normally get used to it pretty quick. It doesn't affect them too bad. But more so what I'm worried about is the neighbors and just people hunting around close hearing this thing go off. And if they know you're feeding, then they're gonna try to get something sweeter and bigger and better to keep the deer on their side. So there's a lot of people hunting this area, but the spot we're looking at is only about 5 acres, and it's real thick cover, a lot of briars, and it's real hard to get to and walk through it. So we're hoping that if some of the deer that were here in the early season have moved back in on some of these does, or just cruising, checking them out, some of the ones coming in heat later and stuff, then maybe we want to be sticking around this area. And this spot has really good potential to hold a good deer. So anyway, we're gonna go today. I've got my bag prepped. I've got some trail cameras in here. I've got a cell link camera and 2 regular cameras, and gonna bring my saw. I like to keep all the limbing to a minimum, just keeping all the deer used to what they're used to seeing. But we've got this just in case we need to cut a couple limbs out of the way to get this thing hung. And I always like to carry these snips with me too. They're pretty handy for smaller stuff. If you just want to get it out of the way without having to break it and twist it and battle with it, they're pretty good. I'm gonna bring these little fold-out pliers, these little things here, just in case there's any adjustment needed inside these bolts. On the inside of these bolts here on this bolt head, you have to hold that tight and tighten these up with these wing nuts with your hands. So it's always good to have these. You get way back there in the woods and can't get this thing tightened down all the way, you run the risk of, once the motor runs, it'll vibrate down a little bit and then it dumps all your corn out. So quick tip for you there: take all your stuff with you in a little pack. That way if you won't find yourself going all the way back to the truck or driving back to the house if you need a tool. But we're gonna take our feeder. We've already got our pulley system made, got our rope tied on. We're gonna take our trail cameras in this bag here, and we're gonna take 1 bag of corn and set this stuff all out, and hopefully in the next couple of days we'll get pictures of a shooter. Alright, we got our pulley up in the tree, and don't ask me how. Time to hang our bucket. All right, guys, we got our bucket hanging here now. You see all this brush and stuff all around it, all this junk. That's why we bring these snips with us. And start getting some of this stuff out of the way. I want to leave as much as possible, just because that's what the deer's used to seeing, all this thick brush in this one spot. There's some cross trails right here about 5 feet away on both sides, so they use this spot real heavy, really often, so we're just gonna clear out just what we have to, leave the rest as it is, because the deer are used to it. And these deer are very aware of their surroundings. A lot of people say that stuff's overkill and camouflaging your sets and all this overkill, but I'm a firm believer in it, because these deer see the same thing every day, just like you and me going to work and going on our daily routines. We know exactly what we pass. They're the same way with these little trees and bushes. They know if the least little thing's been changed, especially if they got their guard up and they're looking here in late season. They tend to have their guard up, so limit all this stuff up. You want to keep it to a minimum. All right, so we've got us a clear path, clear enough to bring this bucket up and down without it getting snagged. I may need to take a couple more of these off so it'll make less noise. So we got us a little path going up for our feeder. Go all the way up to the top of that pulley up there. We're going to test it out real quick, see how it works. We want that broadcasting blade that spins. I call it a broadcaster. I'm not exactly sure what the real name is, but we want it to sit right there above. I don't know if you can see that limb right there. That way nothing's blocking it. We want that feed to go out and hit this old grown-up trail right here on this edge. And the way it's shaped like a horseshoe, when this blade spins, it ought to put it out there perfect. Just turn your RPMs down to the lowest setting. We only want to take it about 10 or 12 feet out. That ought to work pretty good right there. Alright guys, so we've got our pulley string right here running all the way down. You can see I left all these limbs. Just cleared a little spot for that cord to go through. We just want to tie it off with this tree right here the best we can. I like to pick a tree with a little branch right here, and I'll show you in a minute how I cut that off. And then once you get your adjustment and all, whenever you're at the height you want your feeder to be, you just take and cut this off and put you a little loop in it, kind of like this. You can take that loop and just hook it right there, and if you wrap it around 3 or 4 times, it'll hold the weight of your feeder. Keeps you from having to tie a bunch of knots. And another thing that's real important, you want to make sure this cable, your pulley going all the way up to your feeder, is higher than where your deer's head or rack's going to be. The last thing you want is to be clotheslining your deer. They won't like that too much. One more thing I like to do to these buckets is I like to take me a little stick. I don't know if you can see that notch right there I cut with my saw. Same thing on this side. And when you're using these cheap buckets like this, they get the job done, but a lot of times I want to pull in and it can make your lid pop off and water get in there. So I like to cut this just about a 1/4 inch long on both sides. That's with it being full and all of the weight on it. Now I'll take that notch and put it right there on that wire. You want to do the same thing on the opposite side. Just snug it in there nice and tight. Make sure it's in both those notches on each side. Like that. Now you ain't got to worry about this thing sucking up and popping your lid off. Water getting in there. I don't know why. That's all I had to work with one day, and just ended up using that method from then on. But anyway, once you get this thing full, I always like to test the height of this box. Make sure it's not going to move, make sure it's secure. And then I take and spin this blade just to make sure it's got the amount of gravity feed that I want. So, and I don't want this thing just chunking corn, you know, for days. I just want it just enough to keep these deer curious and know it's here. So that's the whole purpose of these feeders, just to get them on a schedule, and you won't have to spend $100 at Tractor Supply or Walmart or Academy loading your buggy down with deer corn, chunking out 2 or 3 bags at a time. Just keep it regular, and you don't need a whole lot to get used to coming to this thing. This is the Game Winner brand, so we just want to go through here, and it's telling me it's 12 p.m. Just hook the power up to this thing. I'll probably have to reset it. It's 3:16, so we want to go to clock. Okay, we're going to take this to 3. It's 16 right now, so we'll put 3:17 p.m. So that's set. We want our feeding time to be 12 p.m. We'll change that to let's say 12:30. Middle of the day, that way it'll be there in the evening for them. Alright. We want this run time to be on 3 seconds. RPM is on low. We do not want any other times for feeding on here, so we're going to skip all these, leave them on off. Test. We're going to get it up a little bit higher and we'll test it. So that is ready to feed at 12:30 p.m. There's that. All right, so we got this thing setting up a little higher now. We just want to test it to make sure everything's working the way we want it. Looks pretty good. There it is, folks. You can see right here. I'll just wrap this around the tree about 4 times. Put a little loop in it right here, and just put it on that little knob we cut off, and that'll hold that thing until the cows come home right there. And you ain't got to worry about tying a bunch of knots. And I just loop the excess rope over the top of this little limb. When you get ready to take this thing down and fill it back up, you got that right there where you need it. I always like to hang these pretty high. I mean, you can see we're probably 14, 15 foot up right there. And you got to worry about the deer seeing it, or normally they don't even you don't have to worry about them getting used to these because they never know they're there. So that's the upside to these little cheap 5-gallon buckets. We're gonna get these cameras put out now. We've got our CellLink camera set up here. Just put it on a muddy trail camera. Got the CellLink sitting there above it. Signal's pretty good. Feeder's full. You can see how thick this stuff is in here we're hunting. stands right over here. We got good cover right here behind this cedar tree. We're up here in this big pine. It's pretty high up there, about 28, 30 foot maybe. That's it for this spot. On to the next. All right, we just got our second trail camera set up, and you can see I use this climbing stick right here to get to it. That's it. That's it way up there. I like to set mine pretty high. That way you don't have to worry about anybody coming across them and stealing them or whatnot. There's that one. I always take one step with me to check them, so if anybody's gonna steal it, they at least gotta go back and get their steps, if they have any. All right, guys, that's it for this spot. We're gonna let this spot die down, and got us a feeder up, put up 2 trail cameras, and I brushed in a ground blind spot as well, but there's an old structure back here that's been abandoned, and we just utilized it for a ground blind, put some cedar limbs and stuff all around the old wood, and it's gonna work really good. It's got an old tin roof on it and stuff, so just happens to be in a really good spot. But that's it for now. Probably gonna go run to town, our spot in town, and up in Clark County, and we're gonna probably take a big feeder, a tripod feeder, and put it out this evening or tonight, however much daylight we got left, 45 minutes I guess. And we're gonna get that spot baited up real good too. We confirmed that the people on the neighboring property are baiting over there, and they plant a bunch of crops and stuff as well, so I don't think we'll have much of a chance unless we get some more feed out for them. But hopefully we'll get a deer on the ground next few weeks, hopefully the next few days. Y'all stay with us.